Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. This is episode 34, and this is Becoming Your Own Loving Parent. We think you are going to love this one, and I am going to turn the time over to Jamie because she is an expert in this area. Hi,
Thanks,
Jamie.
Paige. Thank you. Hi. I don't know that I'm an expert. I'm a fairly new member to the loving parent believers group, so to speak. Somebody who really subscribes to this theory, but it really is all about the loving parent connects to our inner family, which is in connection with and integration with our inner family are big parts of our tree of life, and they are a branch of recovery and real food recovery.
Mhm.
We're here today to talk about becoming your own loving parent because it really is that foundational part of the inner family work. For those listening who don't know what loving parents are, inner loving parents, and why we might need one of those, we'll answer those questions in this episode. But first, we're going to begin with why becoming your own loving parent is even something you want to cultivate in recovery.
Right. So, growing up with harsh criticisms, perfectionist ideals, or chaos may have caused you to develop negative self talk. This can be harmful to both your mental and physical health as you navigate adulthood. Negative self talk can be impactful and repetitive when you don't develop behaviors to replace this habit. So, your mental health and physical health can also be impacted when you didn't grow up with loving parents or didn't feel loved as a child.
Yes, yes. And Paige, before we continue, you might want to move your microphone a little closer.
Thank you for
You're
helping.
welcome. So, as a result, it might feel difficult to go through life feeling secure and loved as an adult. What Paige just talked about was pretty heavy, right? So the idea that some of us grow up not feeling loved by both of our parents, or not feeling loved in a consistent way from our parents, is sometimes the reality of childhood. And it might feel like someone else should rescue us or care for us as an adult. And in fact, I would say many people enter into long-term partnerships, marriages, and other arrangements with other people looking for them to take care of them.
Right.
This is actually not anyone else's responsibility. It's your responsibility to take care of you. Nobody else can take care of you but you. And I'll speak for myself. I never understood this. This is not what was modeled for me. Um, in the sense of it was never talked about. It was never really modeled in an intentional way by members of my family. And not to say that I was taught otherwise intentionally, but from what I observed, what I internalized was that other people need to take care of you. And if other people aren't around to take care of you, that's the worst thing that could ever happen.
Right.
But again, it's not anyone else's responsibility to take care of us. After we become a certain age, 8, 9, 10, and we can start to care for our own needs, we do not need to look to others to take care of us. And certainly as adults, we never need to look to others to take care of us. We can surround ourselves with a community of caring people, right? But that will only be secondary to how you love yourself.
Yeah.
This is big stuff. This is heavy stuff.
Hmm.
In fact, most times this can be done at the same time for maximum benefit. So one of the reasons we created a Real Food Recovery, our connections community, was because we want to foster a community of caring, loving, supportive members around each individual person, so that each individual person can care for and love on themselves in a community that is safe and secure and loving and caring in its own way. But we're not doing the job for each other. We're merely just bolstering what each individual member is doing for themselves.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It sure does to me. So, to further your point, is when you have childhood wounds that continue to be recreated in your adult life, it may mean that developing a loving parent within yourself is the next step. So, if your own parents weren't an example of good parenting, you may still have a family member that showed up for you, but no matter what, your self-talk can be impactful in your day-to-day life, and establishing a loving parent within can help how you talk to yourself. It may feel silly initially to think of yourself as your own parent. However, it is also a way to heal and grow emotionally. So if you have children, you can parent them as you parent yourself.
That's
This
right.
doesn't have to be done separately. You don't have to have children. Think about what you needed and wanted as a child, then create habits and strategies that help you get your own needs and wants met as an adult.
That's right.
Identifying this inner child within you is part of developing a loving parent towards yourself.
Right.
Every person has an inner child, even if they may feel it's difficult to connect with them. And that's something new that I'm learning too, because I'm not
Mhm.
as um, adept at this area. So this is new for me, but I'm loving it. And I
Mhm.
think it's going to be for my betterment. So I'm glad we're talking about it today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I do love this topic, and it really is a game changer in my recovery. Sometimes reparenting ourselves can be painful because there may be gaps of grief where needs and wants weren't met. It's okay to feel this way, and you can still help yourself through the process, right? So it's okay to, we always in recovery, and it's certainly in our real food recovery community, we talk a lot about the and, right? It's feeling the feelings and doing it anyway. It's feeling the feelings and choosing recovery for ourselves anyway.
Hmm.
This is an example, right? Seeking out a professional therapist, counselor, or in my case, I sought out, after years of counseling, sought out a support group. And they were immensely helpful, immensely helpful. Again, for my situation, this really came to me because I was, walking around as an adult child in so many ways. And that phrase is a loaded phrase, right? It's to say
Hmm.
someone is an adult child. I don't
Hmm.
like to, I would never, you know, put that on someone else. So I could talk about myself as an adult child, just like I would never walk around calling somebody an alcoholic unless they had referred to themselves as such.
Sure.
But I am sure that I had so much unhealed stuff from my childhood. And the way I had internalized things as a child doesn't mean that it was real, but it's the way that I perceived it and remembered and internalized it.
Hmm.
That is what I needed to heal from as an adult. And I never had children. For me, the addiction, and for those of you listening, this, the addiction really took away those years because I was so morbidly obese for so long. My reproductive system was haywire. And when I finally did heal, and was able to, go back into, my fertility, natural fertility and reproductive processes, I was in my early 40s,
Mm.
and I was divorced. And I knew I had the option to have a child, and I chose not to at that point because I didn't
Mhm.
want to do it on my own. And it just was something that I felt that if God really wanted me to have a child, I would have had a child.
Mhm.
Um, and that just never came to fruition. And the real reason, I believe, is that I needed a lot of healing. I needed a lot of healing, which I didn't get into my mid 40s.
Mhm.
So that ship has sailed for me. Someday there might be grandchildren. I pray there is. But for now, it is very clear to me that God wanted me to raise myself, that
Mhm.
I had that work to do again in my late 30s and early 40s. And I found adult children of alcoholics in dysfunctional homes. I found a support group when I lived in Texas, and they were incredible. I'm
Mhm.
still connected with them and go to meetings every week. And they gave me a lot of resources to understand my dysfunction, understand where I was sort of stunted and stuck, and how to heal from it, and how to become my own loving parent, and connect with my inner family,
Mhm.
my inner teen, my inner child, my inner critical parent, and all of those false beliefs that come with all of those parts.
Mhm.
It's the ACA program is akin to the internal family systems work that was founded by Richard Schwartz. It's also it's very similar to the fragmented self work that's been out there for many years. So again, it's not to say that it's the only option for healing here, but for me, it was absolutely transformative because I needed to grieve what I never got as a child, which was a lot, right? There was a lot missing in my childhood, from a emotional and physical and just general safety perspective for me. So I needed to grieve that, and I needed to understand what functional families do and what
Mm-hmm.
healthy families do, for me to see how unhealthy some of the modeling was for me growing up. Not all, but some.
Mm-hmm.
So what is a loving parent, right? What does a loving parent do? Loving parents provide their children with solid emotional foundations, and they nurture healthy identity development. They love, protect, listen to, appropriately touch, guide their children gently through the trials and tribulations of growing up. Loving parents provide their children with strong, solid emotional foundations. In functional homes, parents automatically provide their children with basic needs, right? Air, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. It's never something that's given begrudgingly or shamefully, although unfortunately that is what many of us grow up in,
Yeah.
is homes that are told that you should be lucky you have this, or you should work for that, or if you don't do this or that, I'll take that away from you, these basic needs away from
Mm-hmm.
you. A loving parent provides safety and security. They foster a sense of being loved and belonging in the family, extended family, neighborhood, community, and world. They model how to be trustworthy. They have supportive people around them who give them energy. They bolster their child's self-esteem.
Yeah, I love that. That really makes it so clear. I mean, as you were saying all that, I was really drawing a picture in my head of what that looks like. And everyone should have the opportunity, every child should have the opportunity to have that. So
Yes.
it goes on, it begs the question that why do we want to become our own loving parents to our inner families? So we do that so we can stop them from sabotaging us. If we do not recognize our inner children, they do what real children do when they are ignored. So this is something new for me too, thinking about this, that if you don't recognize these inner children, what their needs are, then they're going to flare up. They're going to do what they were designed to
Yeah.
do.
Act out.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
they retaliate and find ways to sabotage our best efforts. Our inner children withdraw when they are afraid, worried, or angry, and we lose time, energy, money, creativity, and spontaneity. We remained stuck at various stages when we were so emotionally stunted that we stopped growing up. I have seen that in people. I know
Mhm.
that's what happens. I have relatives where it seems like they stop maturing at this age where they had
Yes.
something uh, go off kilter in their life, and they're a real pill to deal with as adults.
Mhm.
So, examples of sabotage include our addictions and compulsions, which can include food, alcohol, codependence, dangerous or risky behaviors, gambling, drugs, sex, tobacco, work, alcoholism, and hoarding.
Mhm. Just to
So,
name a few.
yeah, yeah. And if that's not enough, then we also want to touch on sabotage also includes non-productive or negative behaviors such as abuse of self or others, an attitude. I'm sure you've known these people, an attitude that the world owes me,
Absolutely.
blaming others, codependence, defensiveness, demand for immediate attention, that those drama queens, this dramatic and hyperbolic actions, self self-shaming and shaming of others, emotional outbursts, extreme cautiousness, focus on detail, not the big picture, fixation on slights of others, habitual coercion of others, low self-esteem, lying, manipulation, paranoia, passive aggression, pretending to work on a program, or sulking, procrastination,
Mhm.
rage, rescuing and fixing others, rescue seeking, revenge seeking, self-pity, shame. Any of
Yeah.
these ring a bell? I hate to even ask that
Heck of a
question.
list. Heck of a list. And really what this list describes is, and in other words, right? For many of us in the ACA recovery world, the adult child of alcoholics or dysfunctional homes,
Hmm.
the recovery work that we do is to move us away from those behaviors. Those
Right.
behaviors that are listed here are, again, it's a hit list, guys. This is
It's a
not,
stumbling block, total stumbling block to being enjoyable adults. I'm sure people that are out in the working world have worked with so many of these people that
absolutely.
these lists, because I hear, I'm not out in the corporate world, but I hear friends that are in the corporate world
Mhm.
literally using these same phrases that I just talked about,
Yes,
describing their boss or a coworker, and they have a stomachache going to work every day because
absolutely. It's
working
hard.
same thing with family members that are
Exactly.
just difficult to deal with. It's miserable to be involved with those people.
And if the reality is, for those of us that were raised with people with those characteristics
Mhm.
or behaviors, if we were raised in families that had leaders or senior members or older members of the family, or even peers, right, even siblings or cousins with these traits or behaviors, chances that you have inherited some of those are pretty high. It doesn't mean that you haven't inherited the skills to make different choices, because that is also possible. But for some of us who didn't have positive role models on a daily basis, day in, day out, right, day to day, we didn't have those folks to show us the healthy way. All
Mhm.
we inherited were the dysfunctional ways.
Mhm.
And it
That makes
just takes a
sense.
lot more healing and a lot more intention and self-awareness to move
Mhm.
past those behaviors. It doesn't mean that any of us are broken or irredeemable or none of those. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means
Mhm.
we have to be more mindful, more intentional, and more connected to ourselves and others.
Yeah, I love it. Smart.
Okay. Yeah. So ultimately, we want to become our own loving parents. And here's why: we want to end the internal conflict. The
Yeah.
fragments of ourselves all have different needs and wants, so we remain in constant internal conflict for as long as the parts of our fractured selves operate in isolation. What's a fractured self, Jamie? I'm glad you asked, Paige. Well, fractured selves, those are examples of our inner child, our inner teen, our inner preteen, our uh, inner critical parent. In the internal family systems lingo, you'll hear words like firefighter. You'll hear words, exiles.
Mhm.
Of course, the inner child. You might even hear words like that term fragmented self or selves.
Mhm.
All of those are describing the exact same thing. It's really
Mhm.
just what vernacular appeals to you.
Yeah.
Um, Integration of the fragmented parts of ourselves. That's another reason why we want to become our own loving parents. When we help our inner children complete the life stages they missed, they begin to integrate their needs and wants with those of our loving parents. Again, our own loving parents. Not to say that you don't have a set of loving parents out there in the world. That if you do, amazing. Also, if you do, I'm guessing you're not in recovery or listening to this podcast. Just a thought. Maybe you
Uh-huh.
do. And if that's the case, then you're in a really good place, because you've got this beautiful foundational element in your life, and then you're going to build your own recovery on top of it. Amazing. Amazing. When all those parts of ourselves are integrated with our adult selves, we then have solid, unified personalities that are able to make decisions, move forward, right? As whole people, we go on to build healthy, happy, serene lives.
Mhm.
Another reason we want to become our loving parents is to secure that happy, joyous, and free state. When our integrated or inner children or inner parts, as we call them in the internal family systems theory, when these parts feel safe, loved, and respected by us, by our loving parent, they provide us with curiosity, abounding energy, and perfect trust in a higher power. And that has
So
absolutely been my experience.
So important. Oh my gosh, I love that. So now that we've made the case for it so beautiful, how do we become our own loving parents? Well, just like anything else, reparenting yourself can be a tough road with a steep learning curve, but the rewards are deep and far reaching. So we have 5 ways
Hmm?
to become your own loving parent. First, listen to yourself. You may be giving yourself messages all of the time, depending on your level of self talk. It is normal to do this, and how you talk to yourself matters. If a tiny voice wants to go outside for a walk and you have space in your day, honor that voice. If
Amen.
if you don't have space in your day, set a time when you can and fulfill the promise to yourself.
Mhm.
The more that you listen to what you truly need instead of what you think you may want, the more developed your loving parent becomes. Even when it is challenging to meet your needs, fulfill those promises as much as you can. I
Yeah,
love this saying, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
I love that too.
So that self-talk, huge, 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 huge.
That's right. And that's why it's one of our branches. That's right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Number two, right? The 5 ways, number 2 of 5, identify what you loved to do as a child. Ask yourself what you loved to do as a kid and experiment with it. This is part of navigating how to have fun in your life. P.S. If you loved to eat brownies or drink alcohol as a kid, maybe not those things. Maybe
Other
not
other
things
than those 2.
other than those using addictive substances. If you
Yeah.
love to smoke pot as a kid, maybe we don't choose that, right?
Yeah.
But think about, there are very serious moments, and it doesn't all have to be joyless, right? So greet your inner child as if with care, right? So you want to
Mhm.
make sure that you can experience love for yourself by enjoying activities that are and were important to you as a child. If you're unsure, creativity is a great place to start. So think about, finger paints, crafting, cooking, blowing bubbles, flying kites, and anything else that sounds delightful. For me, it is bike riding. Hands down, I also love kite flying and knitting, and cooking and coloring. Those are all things that my inner children love to do. And I feel absolutely joyful when I do any of them. You may even find something that feels silly, and you may find something that you love long term, but both have valuable bits of information. Like another thing that I love to do is dance. I love to dance around my apartment. I dance with my dogs. They think it's hilarious. And they enjoy it as much as I do. My husband laughs at me as well. And it's just something fun to do. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
that,
love.
again, identify what that is. Take
Mhm.
yourself. I used to take myself on, I call them Jamie dates. I used to take myself out on dates and go see music and go to art shows and do things, go to the theater, go to the opera, do things that my inner child or children loved.
Mhm.
And I just would, my cup would be full.
I think I mentioned this to you the other day, that I protect my Friday morning tennis game with my girlfriend, because it's like I'm at 4th grade recess. I don't have a care in the world during
Yeah.
that time on my court, and I can laugh and be silly. I can laugh at myself. I can laugh at my friend, and I
Yep.
can also cheer each other on.
Yep.
So I just I feel as light as a feather after
Exactly.
I leave the court, and it's part of my mental health, I guess, getting
Yes.
out there and doing that. I also had a friend who introduced me to adult coloring books. I had
Yes.
never heard of that before, but
Yes.
that was a fun activity that I enjoy. If you're on a long road trip, it's good to,
It is good.
and this one was on goats, so it was all different pictures of goats, which was.
Perfect. I have an elephant one. I love
Oh,
an elephant.
yeah, I've got my pencils, my colored pencils.
Uh-huh. Yep. When I was in my ACA meetings, because ACA meetings, when you get into the group and you start to learn other people's stories, there's some really heavy stuff that gets revealed in
Yeah.
those meetings, and
Oh, I'm
by
sure.
yourself, by others. And I found a really therapeutic way was to get my colored pencils and my crayons and my adult
Mm,
coloring book, and I would just take out my stuff and start coloring, and it helped me stay above the fray emotionally, so that I didn't take on other
yes.
people's stuff, and I was
So
able to honor
smart.
honor their experience.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, and I didn't even think about the road trips with the coloring. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. You can also do, there is adult paint by numbers. My husband and I did when I lived in Houston for a while, and there were some rough times with weather and other things. We were stuck inside. I can only watch so much TV. Like, you get me maybe for an hour, and then I got stuff to do, and that's
Mhm.
max. And I would go and like paint, or I would go and clean something or organize something, or so yeah.
Cool. Smart. So there are ways. All right. So the next one, number 3, is seek to feel awe and wonder. So
Mhm.
when you are a young person, one of your favorite words may have been why. And I hear it all the time with my grandchildren now. So staying curious can help you stay out of judgment toward yourself and others. When you are in awe of your surroundings or something within you, you can begin to feel wonder and take perspective of the world outside of you. Part of parenting is to give yourself different experiences that feel safe so that you can learn how to navigate them when circumstances feel trickier.
Mhm.
Practice perspective taking in safe spaces so that you can stay true to yourself and your values.
Mhm.
When you get curious about ideas, beliefs, and what things mean to you, you can develop open mindedness and stay willing in the way you approach life.
Mhm.
Often, nature is a way to tap into awe and wonder. I mentioned this
Great.
to you the other day about how I read this article in the paper about how nature, being out in nature, is
Mhm.
proving to be so beneficial to
Mhm.
health. And doctors are now prescribing nature time versus prescription pills
Love
and
it.
staying outside at least 2 hours a week, and
Love it.
how that nature bathing changes the chemistry in our brain. So I
Huge.
digress.
Absolutely, for me, it absolutely works. If I have too much time inside,
Yeah.
by myself inside,
Yeah.
away from nature,
Mhm.
I don't do well. So, this weekend here in New Jersey, there's supposed to be a tropical storm. So I was looking, again, nothing horrible, but looking at the weather, thinking, okay, I got to make some plans for myself this weekend. Like, go get out, do some
Yeah.
things, go see some people, make sure that I'm not home for 2 straight days alone with my thoughts inside the house.
Yeah.
No good comes from that. So I'm able to know and plan more effectively.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing is being out in nature, right? One of the reasons that I love where I live is there is so much beautiful nature around.
Yeah.
Trees and the
Truly.
ocean and all of the animals that go with it. We see dolphins, we see
Oh
whales,
my
we see,
gosh.
yeah, and not to mention all of the natural events that go with living near the beach.
Mhm.
Good, and most of them, many of them good, a few of them a little bit chillier, but ultimately being outside, being on my bike, being able to ride next to the ocean, see see folks in town, see different things in nature, interact with the community. That is absolutely my recipe for awe and wonder every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Another one that this one might surprise you when we think about becoming your own loving parent, but it makes total sense. Develop self-discipline. Think about, what parents do for children, right? They provide discipline for them, discipline
Mhm.
and structure. Holding boundaries is a part of loving yourself. So you deserve safety, and boundaries can help establish security within relationships and within yourself. Part of
Mhm.
unconditional love is to be self disciplined because you are committing to promises no matter the circumstance. It may feel difficult to set and maintain boundaries, but they are part of self discipline. So when if you're feeling impulsive, you're making decisions around food, love, shopping, relationships, substances, this is going to be a signal for you to develop self-discipline. Hold yourself accountable through tasks like food prep, waiting 72 hours to purchase something online. That is something that I've done and it absolutely works. Texting someone immediately or creating unnecessary chaos in your life. You may want to get a burst of power through an impulsive action, but creating self-discipline can help you be a loving parent toward yourself when this happens. So remember, children are impulsive. So if you have
Right.
an impulsive, streak in you to do something, chances are, I'm not saying, I am not in your head, but if I was a betting woman, I would bet that one of your inner children is running the show at that point.
Yeah.
It's really important to ask them what's going on. What are they trying to impulsively, knee jerk away
Mhm.
from the pain, or what are they trying to avoid?
Yeah, we have been talking a lot this week in. So, Real Food Recovery also has a food addiction recovery online community.
Mhm.
And we have had a lot of conversation this week about this exact topic of thinking of your future self. How will my future self feel about this? And we also talk about in recovery about how it's the development of skills that leads to impulse control, or the
Correct.
application, applying these skills that we're learning, such as, becoming your own loving parent, that helps you with impulse control.
Mhm.
That's the whole key right there, impulse control, right?
That's right.
It,
Yes,
just because it feels good, don't mean you should do it. Not in
that's
every
right.
circumstance.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Words to
Yeah.
live by. Words to live by.
So yes, I love that one about self-discipline so much, especially because you are so grateful afterwards when you
Oh yeah.
didn't have you're not left with regrets, you're not left
Mhm.
with having to go eat crow with
Mhm.
somebody. I mean, discipline is the way to go, and we talk all the time about how
It's
discipline.
freedom. Discipline is discipline is freedom.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it's just easier to do it right the first time. It's
If
not messy. It's
no,
you don't have a bunch of messes to clean up.
no. And if I hear somebody say to me, "Oh, you're so disciplined," oh, I can never be so disciplined, that I immediately think, okay, they're sort of their adult child is running the show, and that's cool. And I tread lightly
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
those people, because
Yeah.
they can bring me back into my childlike state.
Yeah. And what I would like to say is how's it working out for you?
Well, yeah, but
It's a mess. It's a mess. When children
it
run
is.
adult lives, it's a mess.
Mhm.
Okay, the last one is take care of your basic needs. So before you respond to a situation, think about how you can meet your basic needs. Part of being a parent is to take care of yourself with shelter, food, and identification of emotions. So, a
Yes.
popular Al Anon slogan is HALT. If you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, chances are you're going to be more reactive than responsive.
Mhm.
So, to be a loving parent, it is necessary to think about how you can create safety for yourself by ensuring that you have a place to live, food to eat, and people who make you feel secure. You may need to be preventative in order to establish these needs for yourself.
Mhm.
So, you're not going to be able to control anything outside of yourself. Control is just an illusion. The only
That's
thing
right.
you can control is your reactions to things, and you can start to build safety and love within yourself. I think huge, all huge points to think about your basic needs. We were having a conversation with someone this morning about they had a friend who is highly reactive, and
Mhm.
they want to be good for that person, but during the conversation we were able to come to a place where we determined making sure your needs are
That's
met
right.
first, putting on your own oxygen mask before you can help this highly
Mhm.
emotional friend. You've got to do it. And at first
Right.
glance, people may think, well, that's being selfish. They're crumbling, but
Yeah.
their emergency is not your first problem.
That's
Your
right.
first problem is making sure you're on solid ground. Then you can't help them. You can't help you, your family members, anything. So making sure that you are safe, number one priority, whether you're in
Mhm.
recovery or out of
Mhm.
recovery,
That's
making
right.
sure you are safe. It's your obligation. It's your
Yeah.
job to
No one else
yourself.
is coming to do it for you.
No one is coming
No
to
one else.
save you, and quite frankly, if you have someone who is highly reactive with you, you don't have to respond right away. You can take your time to make sure your needs are met and respond when it's good for you.
That's right. That's right. So here's the deal. Becoming your own loving parent at first can feel like a full-time job, or maybe even a really hardy part-time job. But I assure you, you and your inner family are worth the effort. By being
Yeah.
preventative and creating self-discipline, you discover that joy, awe, and wonder come easier to you. And
Mhm.
I've been a longtime member of Al-Anon. And I've also, of course, had my forays into the 12-step world through ACA. And I will say that identification of emotions, identification of sensations in the body as well, and um, using the tools of recovery, it really does work to bring joy, awe, and wonder back in your life. And that's why in the
Nice.
12-step world, they'll say, you're happy, joyous, and free, right? When as you continue to work your steps, let's just say, or work your program, that is why you do it, because it helps you remain happy, joyous, and free.
Mhm.
Joy is a vulnerable emotion, which is why safety within yourself can be imperative. How you talk to yourself and the way you show up for yourself each day are loving steps to becoming more regulated in reactive situations. So again, it's that whole idea of, we just talked about this morning with one of our members who, notices that they are highly reactive when
Mhm.
things change, or when they have unexpected, life on life terms kind of situations. And that is a hallmark of unhealed wounds, is what that is. It folks might attribute it to other things, but it really is a hallmark of unhealed wounds.
Mhm.
And the good news is, a lot of that can, if it's addressed, if those wounds are addressed and looked at from an adult perspective, guided by a skilled guide, counselor, therapist, group recovery leader, those wounds can be uncovered and grieved, and they can be put into their appropriate place in your psyche. Instead of being front and center and very triggering, they can be back where they need to be.
Mm.
And they can have less of a hold on us. So again, it's really, if you notice that you're dysregulated in reactive situations where you're flying off the handle, as they say, there's a way here, right? This work is so critical to healing those parts of us that react. And when we feel lost or imperfect, affirm that you are doing your best. There are so
Mhm.
many times when I'll feel like, everything is up in the air, and I don't know, what I'm doing, or if I'm doing it right. And my loving parent will come in and say, sweetheart, look at everything that you've got going on. You're
Yeah.
doing great. You're balancing all the things you're balancing. You're helping others. You're checking it against your, what Paige and I created the branches of recovery for.
Mhm.
And you realize that we can see the areas of life that we really are doing well, and the ones that we'd like some help on. So you can seek individual or group therapy with a loving, safe therapist, or community. And that's why we've created our community in Real Food Recovery, an online membership community for that reason. It can also help you establish a relationship between and within yourself. After all, a part of parenting may be to acknowledge when you need help. And that is
Yeah.
exactly the way it should be.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love great point to end on is figuring out when you need help and then where's best to get it. So
Mhm.
it's part of the responsibility, right?
Yes.
Ties into that. I love that.
Yes. 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 And a parent, a true, healthy, functional parent would
Right.
say, hey, you know what? I need an outside source here. I need some expert wisdom here. I'm gonna
Mhm.
seek wise counsel, as the Bible says. So
Mhm.
that is absolutely what God wants us to do, right? As we try to guide others.
Mhm.
And that is very true. Like anything that a healthy, functional parent would do, I try to do as a loving parent for my inner family.
You know